Vanessa and welcome to Crafty Gemini Creates. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make a really cute reversible headband. We're using an elastic for the back part so it can stretch, it'll be adjustable, and you can totally make it to whatever size you need it to be for a small child or for a grown-up like myself, right? So here we have a sample so you can see how it looks when I wear it. And then down here I have a few other samples. They're totally reversible. So I kind of like to mix up a cute print with more of a solid on the back so that, you can match it to different outfits. You can see the elastic on the back here, and they're so simple to make. I promise you're going to be cranking them out by the dozens. So let's get started. You're going to need a template for this project, and I'm actually, instead of providing you with it, I'm going to teach you how to make it yourself. So I have a basic sheet of cardstock here, 8.5 by 11. We're going to grab a pen, some type of marking device, and a ruler. Let's start off with a straight line, right? So we have a reference point. We're just going to make a straight line anywhere on the paper, no big deal. Just draw yourself a straight line. Now from one end here, I'm going to measure over 9¼ inches. So here we go, all the way to 9¼ and mark that. Now on this edge here, from where the horizontal line here matches the perpendicular one, so basically let me show you a dot right here. From that intersecting point, we're going to measure 3/4 inch up and down and mark those as well. So here's 1/4, 2/4, which is a half, and 3/4. So I'm going to put it right there, mark up, and then we can do the same thing from here. Put it at my 0 point and mark 3/4 inch down. Okay? Now on the opposite end of this, we are going to do the same thing, but instead of marking 3/4 inch up or down, we're going to do 1¼ inches. And the reason for that is that I want that center line being right at the halfway point. I've designed these to be used using 2.5 inch strips of fabric. So 1¼ and 1¼ is 2.5. So we'll be able to maximize the use of our 2.5 inch strips. So I have the line at 1¼ right here. Mark up top. And mark at the bottom, 1¼ And I'm just going to drag these all the way to the edge because we're going to use the edge, the straight edge of our paper, since we know it's straight, as our guide, because we're going to line that up on the fold. So now all we need to do is turn this, take your ruler, and match up the points that you just did. So from this one all the way here, and the same on the other side. Here's one. Super, super simple. And we're going to cut these on the fold so that our headband can be symmetrical, right? And now we're going to draw a straight line across this way, matching these points. And this size is going to fit an adult head. You can totally customize this if you want to make this for a smaller child. So here is our template piece. And now we can take a pair of scissors or rotary cutter, whatever you want to use, and you can cut this out. And I like to cut these out of cardstock or sometimes even manila folders. That will give you a sturdier template. Then you can save it and you won't have to remake it. You'll have it on hand every time you want to make another headband. Okay, so here we have our template. I'm going to go ahead and, like we would do on pattern pieces, write some information on here to remind me so we don't forget, and cut our actual headband strips in half. You're going to write right here on fold. And I'll put a little arrow down. That reminds me that I need to lay this straight edge of my template piece on the fabric fold. So we have some 2.5 inch strips, and this fabric, I think it just worked out beautifully for these headbands. I'm using Fresh Cut by Basic Gray from Moda. They're gorgeous fabrics, and the colors coordinate great. I have selected 2 here. This really cute green with some small floral, and then a more basic one that just has like a geometric shape on it. And then I think the fold over elastic I'm going to use is going to be the green one. These come in all different types of colors, and all you really need is about a 4-inch chunk. So let me do that. That's 4 inches right there. Okay, and they're pretty stretchy. I mean, 4 inches doesn't look like a lot, but you can see how I can stretch it out nicely, right? So let's cut out our template pieces. First of our fabric. I have my 2.5 inch strip here. It's on the fold already. And if I fold it again, I can actually cut out 2 at once. So if you're going to be making these for gifts or making them with some kids, you can totally do it like this and crank out a bunch at the same time. So I folded it in half the way it comes off the width of the fabric, and then I've refolded it. We'll take our template piece here, remember, on the fold. So look at your piece and see where the fold is. My fold is here. This is an open edge where the selvages are. There is a fold because we folded it twice, but don't get confused. You want the side that has all the folds on it. And we'll lay it right here. And if you measured correctly, that template should measure just about the same distance here as your 2.5 inch strip, okay? And just so my template won't move on me, I'm gonna go ahead and just secure it down with a straight ruler. That way I know my edges are straight too. And when you open this up, if you put it on the fold correctly, you'll end up with 2 strips. So if you did want to make a headband that was the same on both sides, all you need is one of the 2.5 inch strips. But we are going to use a different fabric, so it can be reversible, and you basically get 2 headbands in one. I kind of like that idea. So let's refold this one. Here's my fold. We'll set those aside. Refold this one, and we'll repeat the same thing we just did to the first one. Now, what we're going to back the fabric with, you could do it just like this, but I feel like the fabric needs a little something else to get the headbands to lay nice and flat. So I've chosen to use a product called Shape Flex by Pellon. And I really like this. It doesn't add too much weight to the fabric, but it just gives it a little extra hand. It lays nicer and crisper, and it's a fusible product, so it's super easy to use. So I have a piece here of the Pellon Shape Flex. And one side is smooth, the other side is more bumpy feeling because that's the side with the adhesive. So I'm going to fold this in half, and we're going to take the same template we just used again and mark it and put it on the fold. And we're going to cut 2 pieces out. Since we have 2 template pieces of fabric because it's reversible, go ahead and cut out 2 of your Shape Flex. So let's recap what we need. 2 template pieces cut on the fold of the Shape Flex product. Here we go. We have 2 strips of fabric, right? Reversible. Now let's head on over to the ironing board and press these or fuse the Shape Flex to the fabric. Got my iron on here. I'm going to lay the fabric with the pretty side of the fabric facing down and lay my Shape Flex on top of it so that that bumpy side or the rough side with the adhesive is now touching the back side or the wrong side of the fabric. You definitely don't want to hit this, the adhesive side with your iron, okay? You're going to gum it all up. So that one's ready. And then just a nice dry iron, no steam needed. Fuse that right into place. Move it over. Same thing, pretty side of the strip face down. Adhesive of the Shape Flex face down so it's on the wrong side of the fabric. Match up your raw edges and fuse it into place. I also like to fuse it from the fabric side just to make sure I have a nice bond between the product and the fabric. All right, now before we start sewing, we are going to prep these strips for sewing. And I think this is a pretty easy way of turning your headband inside out without leaving an opening on the side. So turn it so that the pretty side of your strips now are face down. And on the ends here, I am going to fold them in like towards the Shape Flex side of our strips, about 1/4 inch. That's gonna be my seam allowance. That's what I'm gonna use. So I'm folding it like this, press it into place. Repeat the same thing on the other end, and then also to the other strip of fabric. And then sometimes what I do also, just to make sure, because sometimes when we're cutting our fabrics or our strips, we don't get everything as precise as we'd like. A good way to double check before you start sewing so everything matches up is to lay the 2 strips pretty sides together the way that you would sew it at the sewing machine. And so with the folded ends, I want to make sure that they're matching. I'm going to walk my fingers down the strip. And then on the opposite end, when I go to fold back this other strip, I want to make sure I'm folding it back so that it matches the next one. And that way I know when I stitch them together, I'm not going to have one strip that came out longer than the other. So that's a good way to fix up any mistakes, right? Before you start stitching it together. It'll work out fine. All right. Now we're going to head over to our sewing machine, and with a basic straight stitch, we are just going to stitch right here along both of these sides. Now notice, because we've angled out the design of our template here, see how it's wider here than it is here? Because it's angled out, it's symmetrical, this half is now mirror imaged on the other half. So when you get to these center points, you see it goes out, and then as it comes in, all you want to do is stitch with a nice light curve. You don't really want to pivot or you get like a sharp point. Just take a nice light curve and the headband will turn out just fine. So if you want to use pins, you can. I'm not going to. They're kind of short strips. We're going to stitch just along the straight edges or the longer sides. And I'm using 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Gonna back stitch at the beginning and at the ends. All right. So here we have it, all fully stitched up. So now I like to take it over to the ironing surface and just give it a good press real quick, just to set those stitches in place. Okay, and now if you notice, since we folded in the ends already, we don't have to fix that seam allowance after. So that's kind of saved us a step up front. Now we're gonna take a large safety pin and we're gonna flip this right side out. It might be a little tricky if you've never done this before, but the headband is pretty wide, so it shouldn't give you a problem. What you do is you go to one end of it, like this, and it's kind of tight, but just grab any side. And I'm just gonna run my safety pin through one side of the fabric. So let me grab it here, and I'm just gonna pinch it through one side. So I've chosen the pink fabric, and then close the safety pin right up. Now I'm gonna turn it so that the head of the safety pin is going down into my tube, okay? So notice how I did that. You see that? So make sure that you're pinning from the right side to the left. Then you should have the head of the pin at the top, slide it down, and turn it so that the head of the pin goes inside the tube. Now with my thumb, I push on the end of it, and you can see it starts going further and further into the tube. And then with my other hand, I'm just gonna slide back on it. And if you grab in here, you can feel the head of the pin. It's quite bulky, especially if you use a larger safety pin like I am. And so it's easier. So I'm still pushing in right here on the end of it, and I'm just pushing the fabric back. So it's scrunching it up all the way on it. Now, as I get maybe halfway through or so, I will hold the head of the safety pin in here. You can't see it, but it's bulky, right? I'm grabbing it on this side. And now with my other hand, I see the end of it, but I want that fabric to go in. So I'm going to now pull on this fabric so that it's turning everything onto itself. And at first you may think like, what are you doing? But as you start tugging on it, you'll start to see the fabric is now being pulled in through the tube, so it's folding in on itself. And just tug on the fabric here, and you see what happens? Now I have that entire strip that was sticking out, it's all the way in because it's following the safety pin, right? It's pinned to it. We continue, keep pushing, pushing and pressing the fabric back until the safety pin head comes out on the other end. Hold it with one hand and pull this fabric all the way back on itself, and this is what happens. You flip it right side out. Now, granted, it looks crazy, but of course we have an iron, right? So now we're gonna head over to the ironing board again, and we're going to press this out to give it the shape that we want for an actual headband. Remember to take off your safety pin here. You no longer need it. So let's head over here. And I like to roll this out so that you get all the fabric out of those seams, all right? So this is probably the part that takes the longest, but it's not a big deal. Once you hit it with a nice hot iron, you won't have any problems. By folding those edges in, the seam allowances in on the end, we don't have any raw edges sticking out. So that really helps. Press it. You want to try to get that seam line going right down the side so that when you have it facing one side or the other, you're not necessarily seeing the other or the second side, right? The reversible side. So just roll out the seam, get all that fabric out of there and press. And just repeat that all the way down the strip. I think I'm happy with that shape. And you can use steam here if you want to. I'm using the iron nice and hot. Now, we head back. I like the shape of it. All we need to do now is add the elastic to the end. And because we folded in the ends, this is gonna be super easy. I think you're gonna be impressed with this. Grab your little 4-inch piece of elastic, and all you need to do is tuck it in the ends. So we're gonna tuck it in here, and it might be a tight fit, but you want it to be like that. So you can either grab some type of a pen, you can grab your same safety pin, and just to help feed it in there if you can't. If you have smaller fingers than I do, you can probably push them in there, but I always have a hard time. I'm gonna grab these little pair of scissors, a seam ripper, anything that will just help you like kind of poke it in there. So with your other hand, kind of feel around for the edge of the fold over elastic in here, just so you make sure that you're grabbing a good chunk. I like to put it in about 1/2 inch in, and then we're gonna top stitch that into place, and then we'll go ahead and do the other one. I just do it at the same time, why not? Because it's just a few more stitches and then you'll be done. So that's kind of what you want to be working with. So now we're going to top stitch, and I like to reinforce it, so I go back and forth a couple times so that we have the nice stretch of the elastic, but it won't snap on us. So let's head over to the sewing machine. Nice and close to that opening is where you want to be stitching. One down, next one. And believe it or not, you're done. Let's trim away some of these little threads we have sticking out. It's a great way to use up cute coordinating threads that you may have to get your fold over elastic in a bunch of different colors. Use up those 2.5-inch strips. And now you have a super cute and reversible, little headband. That would be great for just about anybody. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to give this video a thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any more of my videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.